Hello and welcome to your Thursday evening edition to Region Weather Live. I am meteorologist Brad Warner. And we continue to have just kind of a bunch of various storms and such going on out there. Right now, we continue to have these storms that develop in through Montana out here. And so we again have another severe thunderstorm watch with these storms trying to push eastward, but they're really not going to make a whole lot of progress. Now, we did have an isolated severe storm just north of Rapid City that pushed southward and has decreased. And we have some out in Wyoming. Some of those may just kind of creep into South Dakota yet this evening around the Black Hills area. But mostly, we're not looking for anything to be severe. And as the night goes along, those storms are expected to die off. Over in the southern portions of Minnesota, continue to have some rain and thunderstorms down there, but certainly nothing severe there as well. So all in all, a pretty quiet evening on Thursday evening. So here we see the HRRR model, one of the models, and they have some of those storms down into southern parts of Minnesota throughout the early parts of tonight, but eventually they will die off as the night goes along, and you can see otherwise, very, very quiet across the Dakotas in Minnesota. And even in through much of Friday, we're really not expecting a whole lot. Maybe an isolated storm or two down in southwestern parts of South Dakota, maybe far southern parts of Minnesota. But really, it's going to be a pretty quiet day on Friday. We're looking at some more storms, however, firing off out in Montana once again, and these storms are expected to push eastward. Now, finally, the mid and upper level patterns start to pick up a little bit, so these storms are expected to make it into western parts of North Dakota after about 1 or 2 a.m. So some of these, and you can kind of see the look of these kind of have that bow echoey type of look. So of course, we're going to be talking about the possibility of some strong damaging winds as they move into western parts of North Dakota through the overnight hours. As they continue to push eastward and it gets kind of more into the early parts or morning, or I should say later parts of Saturday morning, those storms largely are expected to dissipate as temperatures start to warm and we kind of reset the day for Saturday. Taking a look at the NAM 3-kilometer model, basically about the same thing. You see these storms, showers and storms kind of dissipate through the overnight hours tonight. And really just kind of a quiet day for the most part on Friday. Again, this one's picking up on a few storms down in southwestern parts of South Dakota. Some of those might have some hail and maybe some damaging winds, but I think the main threat, if any storms do develop down there, would be the possibility of some larger hail of 1 inch to 1.5 inches or so. But as the evening goes along, those are quickly going to dissipate. Now, again, same thing. These storms develop into Montana and move into western parts of North Dakota after about 1 or 2 a.m. And as the morning goes along, once we get to that 9 o'clock time frame, 9 a.m., maybe 10 a.m., and they move into eastern parts of North Dakota, these storms are really going to die off. And so that sort of allows us to reset the stage for the day on Saturday. Now you can see a large plume of high Cape values surging far into Canada. And along with that, we got some decent mid-level winds that work into southern parts of Canada. A nice little short wave that moves across through the afternoon hours on Saturday. And along with that, a little bit cooler temperatures, obviously, a little bit further north. What we're dealing with is a cap. You might have heard a lot of talk about caps this summer again, but that just means there's a lot of warm air that has now moved underneath this dome up here. So that puts a lid on some of the thunderstorms, and you can see the temperatures at about 10,000 feet are around 12 to 13, 14 degrees Celsius. And really, a lot of times we say anything above 10 degrees Celsius is a pretty strong cap. And so obviously as we move a little bit further north into southern parts of Manitoba, we're looking at 8, 9 degrees Celsius. So not the cap's a little weaker up there. So you put that together, you've got the short wave that moves across the southern Manitoba, a little bit cooler mid and upper level temperatures. And the models essentially just want to develop these storms in through southern Canada But instead of carrying them eastward, these convective models want to dive them southward as they're trying to tap into some of that low-level moisture. Now, if they're able to do that, and because they're going to be expected to be discrete enough, what we're expecting out of these storms as they cross the border and move southward is probably going to be some very large hail, some damaging winds, but also the possibility of a few tornadoes associated with them as well. So if these storms are able to develop and start sliding southward, rather than maybe your typical pushing eastward, that'll have to be watched as they cross the Canadian border, just because there is going to be that threat of large hail and the possibility of a tornado. The H-triple-R model just begins to pick it up at the very end of that run, but it does the same thing. It develops these storms into Canada and dives them kind of south-southeastward. And you can see almost the intensity of that storm, very likely some large hail associated with that. Maybe even the possibility of an isolated tornado with that. So that's really going to have to be watched through the late afternoon hours on Saturday into Saturday evening. Now, once these storms do develop and they begin to move further south, if that's indeed what they do, they're going to start to kind of run into some of that warmer air. So as they do move south, I think it's going to lose a lot of their intensity. Now, the rain and maybe the thunder might be able to carry southward a little bit further. But just because the warm air is in place down here, most of these storms, by the time they kind of reach central Minnesota, probably aren't going to be able to maintain their severity. So then our focus sort of becomes this area once again out in Montana, as more storms are expected to develop and push into western parts of North Dakota after that 2 a.m. time frame. So again, we're going to probably be looking at the possibility of some damaging winds moving into western and maybe making it into central parts of North Dakota by around 6 or 7 a.m. before they dissipate and sort of reset again for Sunday. You can see these mid-level winds really, if this would cooperate with me here. Again, these mid-level winds are surging into northern parts of Minnesota. And in northern Minnesota is a little bit cooler. We don't have quite the warmer air as we do a little bit further south. So it's possible some of these storms that make it into central parts of North Dakota Sunday morning, some of that may linger and push eastward and then sort of intensify or re-intensify as they reach northern parts of Minnesota and carry eastward. Really, I think, north of that Highway 2 corridor is probably going to be your best chance of maybe seeing a severe storm out of that on Sunday. But I think anything south of that might be kind of hard for storms to pop. This does have that possibility, but I think most of it's going to be to the north. And then again, we've got some storms that fire off into the High Plains region. And it looks like maybe Sunday night, this is not for certain, but it's the possibility that maybe more of these storms are going to carry into South Dakota instead of North Dakota on Sunday night. So the other thing just to talk about here quickly are going to be the temperatures for Saturday. We're looking at highs here near 100 out in western parts of South Dakota, probably in the 80s further out east, but really, really warm. We're talking further into western parts of the Dakotas. Then as we get into Sunday, kind of the same thing. We see maybe some triple digits across southern portions of South Dakota, 80s and 90s elsewhere. So it's going to be a really fairly warm weekend in store for us this weekend. So we'll keep you updated with everything that goes along with these storms. We'll be sure to carry a lot of these activity live as much as we can throughout the weekend. So be sure to like below, but more importantly, subscribe and hit that bell button alongside the subscribe button. That way you know when I am on live, and that way in case any severe weather does approach your area, you'll be alerted by me because you're going to know I'm online. And if I'm online, you know there's trouble, so you better tune in, right? All right, for Region Weather Live, I am meteorologist Brad Warner. Everybody have a good day.